More than 24 hours after part of an apartment collapsed in Davenport, Iowa, crews have rescued a ninth person from the wreckage. But officials say there are no deaths after part of the six-story building fell this weekend. City officials credit the fast response of first responders. Here's Danya Backus.
The frickin' building just collapsed.
Rescue crews sprang into action after part of a six-story apartment building in Davenport, Iowa came tumbling down Sunday night.
Because of the response and because of the concern for life by our first responders to get in the building knowing that that building was unsafe to help folks, I can't stress how, because of that, they saved lives. They saved lives.
The wall was torn away from this top-story apartment, leaving only a closet filled with clothes. The collapse brought a massive pile of debris to the ground.
No notice, it just came down like an explosion, like a bomb.
Another resident described the aftermath.
There was a lot of screams, a lot of cries, a lot of people saying help when the building came down, but that did not last. 2 or 3 minutes, and then the whole area was silent.
Officials plan to demolish the building. The fire department had ordered the owner of the more than 110-year-old structure to make repairs, and work was underway. There were reports of falling bricks, and residents had complained of many issues inside. The cause of the collapse remains under investigation. Danya Backus, CBS News.
Officials say at least one person is hospitalized. There were 84 units in the building.